In this podcast, we discuss unsolved cases that may be violent in nature in an effort to keep the cases in the public eye and continue the stories of the victims. Those who choose to or choose against participating are not indicative of involvement in any crimes we discuss. Listener discretion is advised. Today's episode is both deeply personal and profoundly important. We're honored to be joined by Gladys Kilgore, the mother of Jody Kilgore, who tragically lost his life to an unsolved homicide, a violent crime that forever changed her world and left her searching for answers that have yet to come. Since that devastating day, Gladys has shown extraordinary strength and resilience. She's become a tireless advocate for justice for Jody. Her voice is one of courage, love, and unwavering determination. In this conversation, Gladys shares her journey through grief, the pain of living without closure, and how she continues to fight for justice while honoring Jody's memory every single day. Gladys, thank you for being here and for your bravery in speaking out. And we have just a few questions that we wanted to ask you, and we'll just start off with, what do you want people to know about Jody?
I just wanted to let everybody know what kind of man he really was, and still is in my eyesight. But I just want to know, he was a good daddy, a son, a husband, had lots and lots of friends.
And so on the day that Jody was killed, what was that day like for you? What do you remember?
The most horrible day in my life. First of all, I wasn't even here. I was on a trip going up north and never even dreaming that nothing like this would have me turning around and come straight back, which I didn't care nothing about, nothing else then. I just wanted to get back to try to find out what they found out about Jody. It was a rough day.
One of the things that's really most important to us is that we're telling Jody's story, and we are getting the community involved again in the way that they were at the beginning. And what would you like to say to the community? What would you like for the community to do to support you and your family?
And all the things that we do on his birthday, on his the day that he got murdered, we always have a little get together, and I'd love to see as many people there as there were the first time we did, first and second, third time we did it. But it seemed like it just whittling away, and nobody's asking any questions, or nobody, and understanding y'all how much y'all mean to me to be doing this.
Well, that part is our pleasure. Like I said, it's one, we've talked about it several times in the podcast, and one of the things that really stands out is every time your name comes up, you are extremely well liked in the community, and so that's always good to hear. And of course, all those good things we hear about Jody as well. So this was our pleasure.
I know that there is a Facebook group that people can join, and I think that is I believe Cindy runs that page and does a really great job of posting where those vigils are going to be. So I would really encourage everyone to join that. Help us solve the murder of our brother, Jody Kilgore. And graciously, Cindy has also added me as a moderator and admin of that group, so I can continue to post and allow people in, because that seems to be one of the best ways for people to keep up on those vigils. And I know one is October 6th And can you remind us when the other vigil is, the date?
His birthday is August the 15th.
August 15th and then October 6th.
October.
Yep.
And what we can do as well is we'll include a link to that Facebook group in the description of this particular episode so people can have direct access to it.
Yeah, that's a really great idea. We understand from talking to Captain Sriracha last week is that you had a chance to sit down with them and chat with them a little bit. And I think that's because you went in, from what I understand. What would you like from the Wakulla County Sheriff Office? What can they do to continue to support you?
I'd just keep going over stuff and try to find out who slipped, who messed up or whatever, because from what I heard, I wasn't here at that time, but and probably most of everybody that was on Jody's case then are probably already gone, but they got it all wrote down how bad they made a mistake of going in there and just walking all through Jody's yard and a dead man laying there, and who knows how many different things they thought they had, but it wasn't nothing to do with it, just because they were walking around all over the yard and throwing down cigarette butts and sandwich stuff. And Jody, if Jody wasn't dead, he would have died if he'd seen all that, because he took very good care of his yards and stuff.
And then we do understand that quite a few people in the community have been listening to the podcast. We're hearing from people close to us that the podcast is being discussed at some of the local restaurants. So we know that there are people who are listening to this podcast who may be people that you would like to say something to. So is there anyone that you would like to address or say anything specific that we haven't really talked about already?
I just want to everybody. I usually say I have my bracelets on, and some of them come up and ask me what that is. And I said it's my son's been murdered for 11 years now, and I just wonder if he wanted to join in with us and try to help us to find out more things about it. But I just can't understand. I mentioned his I mentioned his name probably lots and lots of times, but everybody would, especially when I wore my shirts with Justice for Jody, I got a bunch of those made up and taken, end up giving them to everybody because of the people that might want to pay no money.
I'm really encouraged to hear about the bracelets. When we talked to Wakulla County Sheriff Office, I think last week, we were told that they would be working with you to get some more of those bracelets. So I hope that's the bracelets that you're talking about. And they
came
through. Good. They came through on you. They specifically said that was something that was in the works. So I'm really glad to hear that they followed through on that. That's good news.
And the sheriff now and Sriracha both, they came in the middle of it, but they've never refused to see me or talk to me about it. And I just wish one day that they would Gladys, you need to come to the sheriff's department, and we have something we need to let you know. That would be one of the happiest days in the world.
I know we're looking forward to that as well. We were, while again, that wasn't the focus of the podcast, I'd be lying if I didn't say we were hopeful that we'd get some crazy phone call that would break the case and something we could provide the sheriff's office and finally know for sure. Again, not the goal, but we were hoping that would happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hoping through telling Jody's story and having the support that we've had from you that maybe something will spark for someone, and we'll get that phone call.
Yeah, I wish that would come in.
Stop it.
I got a extra buddy in the back.
Yeah, he's going to be famous because I probably can't edit that out. So all of Wakulla County is going to hear some crazy kid in the background.
Yeah, you know what? If we could just all be kids.
He's also named after Jody, too.
That's right.
His name is Jody.
That's exactly right.
One thing we are going to do as well is, Elisa and I talked about this, and we were, we want to make sure that we keep this in the front. But, this is going to wrap up the last episode of the series, unless some new evidence comes out that we can talk about. But what we are going to do is release this entire series on Spotify 1 week before the next vigil, and we're going to market that again throughout Wakulla County.
And that'll make it go bigger.
It'll make it go bigger. It'll go global at that point.
Yeah. And I have actually reached out to, there's a particular podcast that I listen to, and they take listener suggestions. So I have reached out to them and told them about this case, and hopefully I'll get a good email and they'll want to cover this case. And this is a really well-known podcast. And so that would get it out even bigger. So, just because we're getting bigger. We're getting close.
You two are getting bigger and bigger.
Bigger. That's what we want.
That's it.
Yeah. So even though we may not be releasing any more episodes week to week like we have, we're still working in the background. And when we get good news, we'll come back and give a little update.
That's correct.
Yep.
Okay.
And we look forward to meeting you when we get on back down there.
Yeah, we'll be back down in there winter. And I know we've never met face to face, and that's going to change.
Yep.
All righty. I certainly appreciate everything y'all doing.
Do you have any other questions, Elisa?
I don't. I just appreciate her time so much.
Is there anything else you wanted to tell us that maybe we didn't think to ask about?
Until the other time when we were doing this before, I never knew that Jody and them were having trouble with the
Company.
The
company.
The company that he had. I didn't know they would close it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, we discovered a lot of interesting stuff. I'm not sure if you've had a chance to listen to all the episodes, but I was surprised to hear that too, because when I was originally, before this podcast was even the thing, when I was originally told the Jody story, it was, he was being picked up for work and they were headed out in the truck. And then, so I was like, okay, well, why was Toby picking him up? And then when we started doing the research, I'm like, wow, that LLC had been closed down for 2 years, but I don't think they stopped working. I just think they closed the LLC. That's the impression I got. They were still doing jobs for people, still doing a lot of electrical work.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Let's start with where we left off in episode 5, which was about listener and community feedback about the role that infidelity may have played in this crime. We covered the 2000 disappearance and eventual homicide of Mike Williams, which involved his wife and infidelity. And over the past few weeks, we've heard from several listeners who gave us names of people whom they believed or heard they believed were involved with Jody's wife before the homicide, around the time of the homicide, and in the weeks and months that followed. We've spent some time looking into many of those names that we were given, but we are very hesitant to go much farther with these names at this time, obviously, because this is hearsay and conjecture. We will, however, be reaching out to Captain Sirachi and Lieutenant Wester to share this information. And additionally, a second Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA, has been requested, and we've had no response to that request, and it's been about a week.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, let's discuss what we do know.
So what we know is there was definitely various types of infidelity, depending on how you want to classify it. What we can't really substantiate is there was a separation also. We know there was a separation. It's really kind of muddled on how long that separation was. And we know that there was relationships on both sides here during that time. We also know that Susan filed for divorce.
Yeah, we do know that Jody was not living in the house for, we believe, to be about several months. We do know that Susan did file for divorce on December 15th, 2011. However, there was a request to hold that filing by both parties on January 17th, 2012. And these dates align with what our primary source told us about when Jody did not live in the home and when he moved back in. So that we have alignment there with when we believe he wasn't living at the house and when the divorce filing happened.
Okay. What we don't know is this a contributing factor or not? We know that there was a reconciliation. We talked about that before. We know that he went back to the home. But we also know that there was still a lot of infighting. There was still a lot of problems, still a lot of challenges. So this doesn't feel very resolved at all.
Yeah, I would agree. Now let's talk about the drug use, right? Here's what we do know. We do know that they're surrounding a lot of the people in this family. We have evidence of use of drugs. We have evidence of possession of drug paraphernalia. We have evidence of even dealing drugs. And we know this because we have been looking at arrest records, reading a lot of news reports, done several background checks. The clerk of the court webpage, we were able to find lots of good information there, evidence of drug use in this family. And we also have eyewitness accounts of drug deals, phone calls that people overheard related to drugs. So those are things we absolutely know.
And let's keep in mind, too, that it's both sides of the family.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about this, we're talking people that were related primarily to Jody, and we're talking about people that were related primarily to Susie and that side of the family as well.
Mm-hmm. And then we want to talk a little bit about our experiences because we're the primary source for our experiences, and we haven't really shared those.
Yeah, one thing that Elise and I've talked about that was really disappointing when putting this podcast together. Let's start at the beginning. You know, we originally approached Susan to make sure that this is something that she would be okay with because we wanted to be sensitive to how she felt about it. And there was no problem here. This is something that it seemed like it was exciting, something that we're definitely interested in. And then as we started to progress, things started to get a little strange. And then she withdrew almost entirely, did not want to really be involved with it at all.
Yeah, and we saw that same pattern of behavior in the 2023 theater that was linked in episode.
That's right.
I think it was 3. And we see Gladys at the end of that Facebook Live at the theater discuss her experience with Susan and how she had invited Susan to come to that event. And Susan's response felt a little bit odd to us. Gladys, what are you trying to do here? You know, it's another example of a lack of active engagement in moving this case forward.
Now, we have to acknowledge, you know, you don't have to engage with us on the podcast at all. That's not required. I just, again, like I said earlier, I just feel like part of the story is missing, and I'd prefer Jody's story be told properly and in its entirety. So at some point, if anyone on that side of the family wants to help us with the remainder of the story, we'll gladly open up another episode and tell that side of the story and make sure that we're covering this as thoroughly as we possibly can.
Mm-hmm. And as we get to kind of a wrap of where we are in this case right now, at this point, listeners, you might be expecting us to say, here's what we think happened. Here's all the evidence. And we feel strongly that this happened and making a firm statement about our opinion. But that's not what we're going to do.
Yeah, instead, we're going to move forward with a call to action.
Yeah, we really want to stay true to our original purpose, was to which is to tell Jody's story, as opposed to point fingers and be investigators. So we have some calls to action. We're going to start with some calls to action for the community. Speak up. Even if you think what you have heard or what you recall or even possibly what you saw isn't relevant, please let law enforcement decide what is relevant and what is not relevant. Attend the vigils. You heard Gladys talk about the importance of the vigils. We know they're in August and they are in October. Join the Facebook group that we talked about. Attend those vigils. Wear the bracelets. We also heard Gladys talk about how the Wakulla County Sheriffs Office generously provided her with additional bracelets to hand out to people to keep this story active. You know, you walk around, you have that bracelet on, and people might say, hey, what is this bracelet about? And you can tell them, and that keeps the story going. And finally, please don't be intimidated.
Yeah, it goes back to what we just said earlier, is we know there are people out there that are not wanting you to speak, not wanting to be involved. Do not let anyone intimidate you. This murder can be solved. We've seen that we have the ingredients to solve the murder. The evidence is there. The conversations are there. It just all needs to come together. If you know anything, go to law enforcement and tell them.
And speaking of law enforcement, we have some calls to action for law enforcement. We and Gladys's family would really like to see more initiative from the sheriff's office with actively scheduling communication with the family. We know that they've said anytime Gladys comes, she's welcome. She feels welcomed. But we don't really know that law enforcement is actively scheduling meetings with Gladys. It seems to be on her to go to them. And we would like to see that. We'd like to see that change. And please update the family, law enforcement, when you are meeting with them. What is the status of that DNA testing that Captain Srirachi discussed in 2023? He talked about the private labs and all of those kinds of things. And I personally, I don't need to have this information, but the family does. Please share the status of that. There was thousands of dollars that went into that testing, and I'm not really sure that anybody knows what's gone on with that or where it stands right now. We also would like to be sure that the family is updated on what leads are actually being followed up on. If we're being told that this is an active case and that is the reason why we are not getting much contact with law enforcement and we are not getting any records, then what is actively being followed up on? There's a difference between an open case and an active case, and I think the family needs to know what is actively being worked on within the scope of what law enforcement is able to tell them.
That's right.
We do want to let listeners know that we have another case coming up. While we are not letting this case go, we will not forget about this case. We will not forget about Jody. We do have a listener who recommended another case out of the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office, and this is the case of a missing man named Ian Rogers. And he disappeared just August of last year. It wasn't even that long ago. And so that will be our next case, and we're excited to get into that case and tell Ian's story.
And to finalize this episode, we thought a long time about how we wanted to do this, how we wanted to close out the Jody Kilgore murder case. And we thought of no better way to do it than for you to hear from Gladys one more time talk about Jody.
I just wanted to let everybody know what kind of man he really was, and still is in my eyesight. But I just want to know, he was a good daddy, a son, a husband, had lots and lots of friends.
Despite extensive investigations by the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office, and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. No arrests have been made, and the case remains unsolved. It is the only unsolved homicide in Wakulla County. Authorities continue to seek information from the public to help solve the case. The Kilgore family has been vocal in their pursuit of justice, keeping the case in the public eye and urging anyone with information to come forward. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement has also shared appeals for assistance on social media, emphasizing the importance of community involvement in resolving this case. If you have any information related to Jody Kilgore's murder, please contact the Wakulla County Sheriff's Office, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, Big Bend Crime Stoppers at 850-574-8477, or you can email us at whokilledgeorgekilgore@gmail.com.